The following program contains graphic material, including offensive language. Viewer discretion is advised.
The idea that this was a coup or a coup attempt.
There's no evidence of anything like a coup here.
Acting like it was a massive coup and an insurrection.
It was not an insurrection. It was not even close to an insurrection. The reality is it was not an insurrection. There was no insurrection.
There was no insurrection. There was a riot, a small one, that got a little bit out of hand.
January 6th was actually an overwhelmingly peaceful march.
They were afraid of some goofball, trespassing, nutty rioters.
How does a guy putting his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk put democracy at risk?
What if we turn off the volume and just watch the images? Does it look like a sedition, a coup?
Hello everybody, it's Jeff. Here today, and today it is Sunday, June 12th, 2022. Smoke. Jesus, you scare the hell out of me when you do that. Right, she jumps from the window all the way to my chair. I'm a good, 7 feet away from the window. Sometimes she lands on my shoulder there with her claws. I got big scratches down my back from her doing that. She don't seem to take a hint. One of my shirts ended up all bloody and I couldn't wash it, so I had to throw it out. Yeah, that's right, I'm talking about you. God, what a cat. Why do you do these things? See, look at the camera there. Why do you do these things? Huh? Smoke. Why do you do this? Oh, all right. You don't want me to hold you anymore. Ow, ow. Smokey, stop it. Why are you biting me? Stop it. Ow. You cut it out. Why do you do this? I'm going to get the clip. I'm going to clip your claws. I'm going to get the clip. Oh, you. Oh, boy. Oh. Oh. So it wears me out playing and fighting with her there to get her to mind and pay attention. That's right. Leave that alone. You don't touch that. Starts chewing on the cords because she knows that I don't like that. Anyway, today was a nice day, and so I went out and did some things and took care of some groceries and stuff. Gas here is $5 a gallon. Can you believe that? Never thought I'd see the day in Maine. I know elsewhere it's more than that, but in Maine that's a lot. I think the highest before that was $3.75. That was during George Bush Jr.'s presidency. What? So, yeah, $5 a gallon. And from all reports about why it's so high, it's obvious that we're being ripped off by the oil companies. I'm not going to say price gouging, that sounds too nice. We're being ripped off. And the reason is because the price of oil per barrel is not high enough to justify $5 a gallon of gas. Plus, we got a surplus of it in our market. And they've of course, the oil companies have been boasting for months here, oh, we got record profits. We got a windfall of money here. Well, how could they have record profits if oil is so sparse? You know, you know what I'm saying? How could that be? It's because there is plenty of oil, and there is enough for us to use, and we don't need to have $5 a gallon in Maine or $7 as it is in California or more. Okay, there's no justification for that. I mean, do the math. Those people out there that are economic geniuses, do the math. They're charging us way more than we need to be charged for this price per barrel here for gas. You know, they're saying that the price shouldn't be any more than, you know, $4 a gallon, if that. Okay, hey, stop digging that. And so that, like I said, that tells me that, you know, we're being ripped off, and it's all because of stockholders. They all want to see more money in their coffers, basically. That's how they justify this. And of course, the fact is that they know nothing's going to happen to them because they come out and tell us that they're making a shitload of money. Tells us, hey, they don't care that they're ripping us off, and they're proud to even mention it. And so, you know, what are we going to do? I mean, I remember the last time when we had high gas prices in this country, and people were protesting around the country over that. Okay, well now nobody's saying anything, which is kind of, I mean, they're bitching about it when you, but there's no movement online or no protests, marches, or anything like that going on to demand that, you know, the oil companies capitulate and lower their prices, okay? Because they're hurting not just drivers in this country, they're hurting tourist industries, okay? People aren't going anywhere. Plus they're hurting, you know, the price of goods, I mean, is going up. I mean, that's part of it. I mean, that may not be the only reason, but certainly making it more expensive to transport things across the country is going to be more expensive. So, you know, it trickles down, you know. So they, you know, they need to, you know, slack off on the price, okay? Because everybody's saying there's plenty of oil to go around, okay? There's no reason why we should have this massive increase here that's driving up inflation. And you know, it's almost like, you know, like Donald Trump is still president, because that sounds like something that he would authorize. You know, that companies can go ahead and do what they want, okay? And Elizabeth Warren had suggested that we ought to put a windfall tax on corporations. You know, when they have huge profits one year that are exceeding the previous year by miles, they should be taxed for that. Okay, I agree. You know, I mean, it's hard enough to get them to pay taxes every year anyway. So if they're going to be pulling this shit by screaming, "Oh, we got lots of money," and then turn around and stick it up our butt every time we go to the pump, then they deserve to be taxed. Okay, for their money. Okay, they deserve a goddamn tax. Besides, they need to be contributing more to the United States anyway. That we need the tax money, which they haven't been giving us for a long, long time. Okay. So, you know, that's how I feel about it. And like I said, that the information is out there for people to see for themselves that, you know, we're being ripped off, and still nobody's bitching about it. It's only saying it's okay, keep ripping us off at the pump, you know, keep charging a ton of money at the grocery stores, you know, keep doing what you're doing. We don't care. Because I think some people are under the impression that this is helping the Ukraine effort. Well, it's not, okay? This is all about the companies taking advantage of the opportunity of what's going on abroad to justify them ripping us off, okay? That's what's going on. And people, you know, are figuring that that's okay because, oh, well, this is helping the war effort in Ukraine. No, that's not. Okay, they've already got their money and weapons over there from us. Okay, charging us shitloads of fucking money at the gas pump doesn't help Ukraine at all. Okay, I mean they're still getting gas enough to run their vehicles and shit over there. Okay, so I mean whoever started that you know, that rumor there that's what's going on is obviously probably pandering to super rich and, you know, trying to keep the rumor going on out there that that's what this is all about, and it's not, okay? I mean, because, look, we put sanctions on Russia, so no one's buying anything from Russia, okay? And no one's getting anything from Russia, so Russia's on its own, okay? So Ukraine is getting their supply of oil from Europe and stuff like that, and so the United States isn't really contributing that to the Ukraine. What we're contributing is guns and weapons, you know, and money to, you know, for them to be able to buy stuff they need over there to continue the fight. All right. But this oil business here, this is all oil companies. This is all oil companies. They see their handwriting on the wall that people are dumb enough to believe lies. They put out a lie and then they start jacking up the price per barrel. Okay, when there's already plenty of oil in the United States right now. There's no shortage of oil right now. Okay, we've had a surplus of it where we don't even need to dip into our reserves. Okay, I don't know why we had to do that, but apparently, from what the experts and the oil companies are saying, we had plenty of oil to go around. So what are they doing with all this excess oil that we're not getting here? Okay, are they just sitting on it, or are they, you know, they're definitely not selling it anywhere else because, you know, otherwise other countries wouldn't be complaining about high gas prices themselves, right? So what's going on? Is the oil just sitting there in the damn wells, not being used? I mean, doesn't that sound like hoarding to you? Because it is. I mean, that's like what happened during the pandemic when everybody's out buying all the fucking toilet paper. Remember? Same damn thing. You know, that's exactly what's going on. Is oil companies are out there sitting on all the oil and hoarding it for themselves. At the same time, whatever drops they're handing out, they're charging us a shitload for. Okay, and yeah, they are making a ton of money, and they can make a ton more still because they got plenty more oil to sell at that price, and people are willing to pay for it. So anyway, there's some talk again about the Democrats not really wanting to support Biden for president again, and it's not like, what can I say about, it's not like mainstream, but you know, somebody did report on it, that it's sort of you know, being spoken of behind closed doors. But Ocasio-Cortez is holding off her support for Biden. She says it's too early. So in other words, she's not that eager to want to support him. And being as she's such a progressive thinker, like Bernie Sanders is, it's no wonder that she's, you know, being hesitant about that. Because Biden, you know, isn't a person who really thinks progressively enough. He will reach across the aisle to the Republican side and try to, you know, give as well as get, which is how politics is supposed to be, by the way, okay? But right now it's too soon for that because the divisions are still very strong in this country, and nobody really wants to reach across for anything. Speak, you know, politic-wise, all they want to do is have it their way, and that's it. They don't want anybody's interference from the other side to, you know, muddy the waters, as it says. You know, it's just they want people to be either one way or the other, and there's no compromise. But you know, the state of politics in America now is a lot different than it was when Biden was a senator. Okay, he might have gotten away with that kind of worksmanship back in the day, but today it's a whole different ball game, and you know, people look at that as a sign of weakness now. If Biden is reaching across the aisle to work with Republicans, a lot of people don't like that in the Democrat Party. And so, I mean, he's tried to work things out with Mitch McConnell, and every time it's blown up in his face. So I feel like he, you know, if that's all he knows how to do, then you know, if he wins again in his next 4 years, it's just going to be more of the same, which is basically, you know, very little movement, you know, not a whole lot of effort of change, and people aren't interested in baby steps anymore about getting things done. They want things done immediately, if not sooner. Okay, that's the way we are now, and so it's kind of frustrating when you think about it, because you know it's not going to work. Okay, what's not going to work is trying to lead from the far left and get things done, or lead from the middle and get support from nobody. Okay, because, you know, like it or not, when somebody tries to lead from the middle by trying to appease both sides turn their back on you. Okay, that's the way it is now. So why go that way? And of course, right now we don't have enough votes in the Senate to keep things our way. I mean, everything has to be 60 votes now, because that's how the Republicans want it. You know, if we want to pass anything, it has to be 60 votes, which means we have to get 4 or 5 Republicans to join with any Democrat agenda, which you know and I know ain't ever going to happen. Okay, even if we got 2 Democrats that are considerably more right-wing than they are left, we're never going to get that. So the only thing we can depend on is really Biden using executive order. I mean, that's basically, you know, I mean, we bitched all the time when Trump was president that he used executive order like crazy. Okay, that's because he knew he'd never get support from Democrats for the things he wanted done. That's why he forced it down our throats. Well, what was true then is still true today. Okay, the only way anything is ever going to change is when the president actually uses executive order, especially when you don't have the votes to support anything you want done, because one side is all united against you for no damn reason other than that you're a Democrat. You know, it's just silly. You know, I can't really remember a time when there wasn't, you know, ardent disagreement in politics, okay? But I do remember a time when sometimes, not frequently, but sometimes you could get some Republicans to go along with something Democrats wanted to have done, okay? But that was a long time ago. These days, the chances of a Republican standing with you over something is very, very, you know, it's a long shot, if not impossible. So it's sad, because not only do we have to have all the votes to put in a president, we have to have all the votes to put in all Democrats in the Senate. Yeah, at least enough to override whatever Republicans try to do. That's why it's very important this year that people get out and vote in everything, because even the local elections, that's important too. And if we don't get out and vote in the local elections, that's just opening the door for more Republicans to slip through the bars and continue on right up into Washington, D.C. So, I mean, that's how people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert got to where they are, is because people never voted in their local elections. They just they let these people slip through the friggin' bars, and that was how they got to where they are. So I just feel like this is one of these times here when politics is, at least our form of politics, is going to be very, very limited here, and it is hurting public perception here against Biden. It's like I said, there is an undercurrent here of people looking for somebody else to vote for in the next presidential election for a Democrat. But I don't know who the hell they're going to find, really, to be honest with you. I don't really know who they're going to find that's going to be able to appease the hard left. Okay? I don't know who they're going to find, because there really isn't, as far as I know, anybody that really does think that way, because there's still a lot of hope out there that, you know, a Democrat can persuade a Republican to join the ranks. I don't know why they think that, but they do. I guess maybe I'm a little more cynical about that because I've seen how hopeless the numbers are against us on that sort of thing. And how, you know, in this past couple of years, how the Republicans have stood united behind anything that was even good for this country. They just stood against it because it was a Democrat that proposed it. You know, if it was a Republican, it would have been all different, but no. So dealing with a part of our public that thinks that way is a lost cause. Trying to reason with them, they're not going to listen to you no matter what you do. Okay, they won't listen to you. So forget it. You know, there's no compromising with these people. They're not going to compromise. They might tell you they will, but then they'll turn around and vote against you no matter what. Okay, just to shut you up. So it's very frustrating, you know, when we hear about stuff like that. I mean, Biden was on Jimmy Kimmel one night, and they asked him about the gun problem and stuff, and he said that he enacted a number of executive orders on the gun issue, but for some reason the media never even mentioned anything about that until it was brought up on that show. And I'm thinking, well, you know, that's another part of the problem, is that whenever Biden does something, the media isn't really there to report it. You know, they're there whenever something goes wrong, but whenever the president does something like an executive order, which is something they always reported on when Trump did it, they didn't really talk much about it when Biden did it after this gun problem. Okay, and they, you know, and of course Biden didn't go into much detail as to exactly what it was he enacted under, you know, the executive order privilege. I don't know what he did, okay, but he said he enacted something there. I don't know what it was, but I think people are looking for an assault weapons ban like what we had before, because when we had it, gun crime rates went down considerably, and then when it expired under George Bush Jr., the rate tripled. Okay, so you know, obviously that's what we were looking for Biden, but he won't do it. Okay, he thinks that the Senate has to, or the Congress and Senate have to get that on his desk, and you know that's never going to happen. So, like I said, this is another issue here where you have a mass killing, a bunch of kids are killed, teachers, and government does nothing. A lot of hot air, a lot of hoopla, you know, a lot of promises given, a lot of thoughts and prayers, okay, and at the end of the day, they figure people's attention on it will go away, and then we can just continue on to the next crisis, you know. I wish we would wake up or try to snap ourselves out of this habit. For 20 years we've been doing this with people. 20 years! You know, we've had these crimes, and then we do this, the same, it's repetitive. You can almost predict exactly how it's going to end up after every shooting. I mean, it's like the same old record being played over and over again. Well, aren't we tired of playing that fucking record or what? Let's go to a commercial break.
Dear CEO, what's it gonna take for you to do something? Yeah, do you even care?
Climate change affects all of us.
This is your chance to do something good.
It doesn't matter what comes, fresh goes better in life. With Mentos fresh and full of life. Nothing gets to you, staying fresh, staying cool. With Mentos fresh and full of life. Fresh goes better. Mentos freshness. Fresh goes better with Mentos fresh and full of life.
Mentos, the fresh.
Little cinnamon gum freshens breath longer than Big Red.
So kiss a little longer, stay close a little longer, hold tight a little longer, longer with Big Red. That Big Red freshness lasts right through it. Your fresh breath goes on and on. While you chew it, say goodbye.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the screamers, the criminals, the carnival barkers and their loyal clowns, the ones who don't like differences. They hate the rules and they have no respect for you. You can't reason with them or disagree with them. They glorify villains and vilify heroes. About the only thing you shouldn't do is ignore them, because they have a plan to push America backwards. And while some may see them as crazy, we know they're dangerous. Because if we don't fight, the people who are crazy enough to think they can stop progress will.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Some little tiff here got started between Biden and Zelensky over in Ukraine. Biden had said something at a, I don't know what, at a rally or somewhere last couple of days, and I'm not sure that, he meant to say it the way he did. But it was sort of off the cuff. It was at a Democratic fundraiser on Friday, and Biden had said, quote, Zelensky didn't want to hear warnings from the U.S. about a possible Russia invasion, okay? Which, was like, well, actually Zelensky was the one that was saying, well, maybe we should put sanctions on Russia before the invasion even happened. And of course they clarified because that a spokesman, Sergei Nikiforov, had told the Ukrainian news outlet liga.net that the two leaders, Biden and Zelensky, spoke over the phone 3 or 4 times leading up to Russia's invasion of Ukraine in late February, saying that Biden and Zelensky exchanged detailed assessments of the relationship between Ukraine and Russia. Quote, in addition, if you remember, the president of Ukraine called on partners to impose a package of preventative sanctions to encourage Russia to withdraw troops and de-escalate the situation. And here we can say that our partners did not want to hear us, unquote, said Nikiforov. That sounds more like what I remember, because I do remember that they were worried that Russia would invade, because remember how Putin was massing all that military stuff on the border of Ukraine, okay? And everybody around the world was kind of concerned that something was leading up to that, to an invasion, a possible invasion, but then Putin was saying, oh, no, it's not an invasion, we're just doing exercises, military exercises. And everybody's saying, well, if that's true, then why are they all lined up on the border here to Ukraine? I mean, what kind of exercise is that? You're planning on, you're training them for an invasion of Ukraine? Either way, it's going to involve Ukraine. Well, Zelensky was the one that was saying, get sanctions ready, because this is probably what's going to happen. Nobody knew exactly when Russia was going to attack, okay? And remember, it dragged on for weeks that Russia was building up along the border. So people, there's room for people to have doubt that there was going to be anything going on. Some people thought maybe this was just, you know, Putin rattling his saber, you know, trying to get something from somebody. People were speculating that, this is Putin's show of force. But what people didn't understand was that, you know, what was happening in Russia was the government in Russia was tightening its grip around the people. They didn't sense the change happening in Russia, that Putin was becoming more dictatorial. They were taking away rights that people had since the 90s, slowly and slowly, up until 2022. And that there was a pattern there that people, especially the media, weren't privy to. I guess they didn't know. If they'd have talked to people on the ground in Russia before the invasion, they would have known. People would have told them that, you know, things we could do back then we can't do today because of new laws they've been imposing. So there was this trend happening inside Russia that was making the country become more oppressive under Putin. And then all of a sudden he starts sending troops down into Ukraine. Well, hey, that's a big red flag. And if anybody in the intelligence community was awake at that time, they would have said, yes, there's a good chance he's going to invade. And so, you know, that's what they were saying, but people were saying, no, that's not going to happen. In the press, it's not likely to happen. And then all of a sudden it did. Okay. So there was enough doubt going around all over the world that this was actually going to happen. So the fact that, you know, Biden was sitting here, you know, kind of saying that, oh, well, Zelensky didn't want to hear it. Well, what exactly was it that you were talking about that he didn't want to hear? Because Zelensky, I think, knew there was going to be something that was going to happen soon, okay, in his country from Russia, because he was already talking to the president and, you know, trying to figure out what can be done here to try to prevent this possible outcome from happening. And that's why he wanted them to impose sanctions on Russia before, in order to get those troops out off the border of Ukraine. You know, people's memories are short, okay, but I do remember, you know, that being spoken of on TV about how there was many conversations between Biden and Zelensky prior to the invasion. I mean, people were nervous over there, and they had every reason to be. Russia has a big military, okay? Ukraine didn't. So when somebody does something like that, you're going to want people on alert, you know? Okay, so like I said, I don't know why Biden stepped in that, but it was a mistake. So let's see what else here. So the January 6th hearing obviously got Trump motivated to come out from where he was and say something, because he was really mad against Barr, the Attorney General, William Barr, former Attorney General, for coming out and saying what he said. Because if you recall, Barr was one of those people who was supporting Trump, but things were going so far off the rail that he just kind of said, you know, enough for me, I can't go this far. And he left, and they replaced him. So Barr, his testimony, I guess, was put on the screen Thursday or Friday night, was it, I guess, was put on the screen. And he was saying that, you know, the idea of him trying to flip an election in the manner that he wanted was ridiculous. Okay, he said it was impossible, and everybody in the circle knew that what Trump was doing was wrong. Everybody. I mean, you even had people from Fox News texting the White House staff at that time, telling them to do something to stop him from, you know, letting this riot go on, because it's going to reflect bad on him later on. You know, they knew that, okay, because they knew that, you know, what Trump had started was a bad idea. Okay, and even though on the surface Fox News was standing behind Trump, behind the scenes they were not. Okay, they really didn't. So regardless of what Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham say, they weren't 100% behind Trump on that day. They were all against it, and they won't say it, but we've got their cell phone calls, or their texts rather. We got those, and it shows right in the text what they were saying to one another, and it's not it wasn't anything nice for Trump, you know. But it's interesting though how even though they on the surface, I mean, even though they knew what he was doing was wrong, they were still afraid of countering him, of talking out against him. And it's like, why are you afraid of this bastard? Okay? I mean, with as many people as there was that were standing against Trump, against this thing, what possible threat do you think Trump could have imposed on Fox News, of all things, to scare the hell out of him, where they're too afraid to tell him to his face, you know, you're being an idiot, okay? Stop this shit, you know, or we're going to kick your ass out of this office one way or the other. I mean, what the hell is wrong with people? You know, because that, you know, if I was the general that day, there wouldn't have been no hesitation on my part. That minute that riot would have started, I'd have grabbed him right by the throat and brought him right out to the friggin' out the door and said, this is what you started right here. You either stop this now, or you're not just going to suffer, but everybody you know is going to suffer. Okay? You know, basically that's what I'd have done, because that's how you deal with a defunct brain like that. Okay? That's how you deal with somebody like that, is you got to scare the piss out of them. Okay? When they realize that they ain't in control anymore, okay, that's when they do things. So that's what they needed to do. They needed to back his ass into a corner and show him, just because you're the president, you're not in control here 100%, buddy. Okay, you either stop this, or we're going to make you stop it, and you're not going to like how we get around doing it. Okay, so you know that's what it should have been done that day. But you know, everybody's so, you know, tiptoe around the president. You know, nobody has any respect for that man. They didn't then, they still don't today. I don't think anybody would have gave that much of a care at all, you know, when the Republicans would have come out and said, oh, the Democrats went and did this as they're friggin' dictators and stuff. And, you know, how would they have countered that compared to what Trump was doing that day? Trying to start a coup in the fucking White House. Tried to overturn an election. You think that was any less severe? Christ. No. The controversy would have been there regardless. But, you know, things would have stopped. The escalation would have stopped. The riots would have stopped. Okay? I'd have had choppers over there, landing on the ground with troops coming out of there. When the people saw that, you know, they would have run, because they didn't have anything that would have prevented them from, you know, getting hurt there. But like I said, people are coming out now in the when they're under oath, and they're saying what they really want to say, okay? Because they're afraid now. They know that some of the bigwigs here have gotten in trouble, like Giuliani and the Kraken Powell there. Okay, they're all in trouble. Okay, all these people. So, you know, unless they cooperate, they're going to be another name on the list. So people are turning their backs on Trump, and Trump is having a fit. You know, it goes all against everything he's been saying here for the last few months about, oh, guess who's going to come back to the White House? You know, he's sitting here telling people he's going to make it back to president. No, he's not. He ain't coming back. Forget it, people. Take those little hats off that says Trump 2024. It's not going to happen. Okay? You better look for somebody else. Okay? His days are over as president. There's no way in hell that they're going to allow this man back in the White House. I'll tell you why, because they will cheat to make sure he doesn't come back in. That's how dangerous this bastard is, okay? They're not going to let Trump back in the White House. They'll see to it that he stays the hell out of it once and for all. Okay? That'll be the time when the Democrats will cheat to keep the White House. If he runs and he's the one, the primary on the GOP, you can forget about a fair election. That election's going to be rigged, and it's going to be against Trump. He's going to stay the hell out of the White House. We're not going to risk it again. We'd be stupid to make the same mistake twice. Okay? So, Trump's own daughter had come out against him, which I think people really thought would happen anyway, because You know, some things were being said that, you know, she wasn't really happy with her father for what he'd done that day. So it wasn't really like that big of a surprise, I think. But the fact that she come out and did under oath said what she said, that she agreed with Barr about what Trump was doing was wrong, just shows that there was dissent even in the family about what was going on. And why wouldn't there be? You know, nobody in the family is all going to agree on the same thing, no matter who you are. Okay, you're gonna, you know, one of them had to have enough common sense to know that there's rules in this country you do not cross. But her father was too obliged to feel that he could cross them, and figured there would be no consequences to it. Okay, he couldn't have been more wrong. But what's you know, worrying a lot of people is that, yes, we have these hearings, yes, we're going to try to hold people accountable, but are we actually going to do it? Okay, because we all know at the end of the day who is at the top, who is the one responsible for all of this happening, okay? And that's Donald Trump. So are we actually going to prosecute Trump or not? Are we actually going to hold him accountable for this or not? Are we going to punish him for this or not? Okay, that's where people's cynicism rather, starts in, because they figure the wealthier the guy, the more powerful the guy, the more he can get away with. And if he gets away with this, people, if for some reason they're not able to punish this guy for what he attempted to try to have happen, and they got a mountain of evidence to show that he did, if he gets away with it, people, you can bet that there's going to be a January 6th every friggin' time we have a presidential election. No matter if it's the right wing or the left wing, there's going to be riots outside it. That's going to be a normal thing in this country, you know. And I'm afraid that, you know, America's system of democracy is, you know, it just, I mean, as damaged as it is now, it's going to be non-existent by then. Okay, it's going to be non-existent, because who the hell cares what person does wrong in a government role? Who's going to care if they did anything wrong? Okay, because we know they're going to get away with it. I mean, isn't that sort of what's happening in Russia right now? I mean, they got leaders over there that are oppressing their people, and there's no chance of any justice there for any of those people, you know, for punishing their leadership. No, that's not going to happen. How is that any different than here? How is democracy here different than communism over there? We have the same end result here at the end of the day. It's just people being oppressed and our rights being taken away from us. Okay? Right, so, I mean, we're getting closer to, you know, the red communist China thing here, or Russia, than we care to admit to ourselves. I mean, it's there, it's happening, you know. And Trump really opened the floodgates for that under his administration, and boy, it encouraged a lot of likewise thinkers to want to see more of that to happen. And we found out awful quick how easy it is to get people to back somebody like that, to take a stand against the country, claim it's patriotic, and make you believe that what they're doing is right. You know, you listen to the people on the ground, the voters that supported Trump, and the things they say, how much they still support him, how much they think that all this hearing stuff is just more political gamesmanship, okay, that there's nothing there, there's no evidence there, okay, they don't want to believe it because they're still listening to propaganda coming from Fox News, which isn't really news. It's just, you know, Fox reality. You know what I'm saying? It's their reality they're living in over there. In fact, they wouldn't air any of that hearing Friday night on their station. Instead, they spent the whole 2.5, 3 hours on their show during that period that we was watching the hearings. They were spending all that time, you know, shooting down Liz Cheney and all the people that were investigating, and, you know, calling this a big witch hunt and everything. That's what they did, okay? So all the people watching Fox News, that's what they got in their head now. Witch hunt, you know, Cheney's a turncoat. You can't trust her. You know, they're coming out against everybody that's involved in what we was watching on Friday. You know, all the people that testified against him. Now Trump's coming out against Barr. You know, it's just, you know what I'm saying? they've got no leg to stand on, but they're going to fight anyway. Okay? They have no proof to back up any claim that was made that this is all a big conspiracy, that all this is a witch hunt. No claim, no proof at all. Okay? But they're going to come out and fight it anyway. Stupid is what stupid does, okay? And that's what they're doing. And the thing is that, you know, you still got, you know, 30 million or so people out there that'll fall for it. And those people vote. They vote. And when you had 20 million or more people watching the hearings, I'm hoping that people remember these things come November this year, because I hope that people remember that voting Republican is really, you're gambling away your democracy when you do that. I mean, do you know this person well enough, this Republican well enough to trust giving him or her your vote? You know, think about it. Considering the track record of that party, do you really want to put your name on that? You know, take the responsibility of whatever disaster happens under their administration. I mean, do you really want to go that way? You know, I mean, can you think of a time when voting for Republican was a good thing in the long run, when they actually did something that was good for America? Can you actually think of that, of a time? I mean, I can't. You know, even all the talk about them stopping abortions, for decades they were saying that, and they never did. They couldn't stop it. I mean, how long did it take them? No, instead, at the end of the day, they had to rely on governors to try to enact that, okay? You know, they couldn't rely on a Republican president to do it, so now they're trying to get their state governors to do it instead, okay? And challenging the federal government to overturn it, you know? So, like I said, it's very hard for Republicans to get their way, but they keep voting that way. They keep voting Republican, hoping beyond hope. You know, what is it they say? You're crazy if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, they must be a little crazy, you know, to keep doing that. Because I don't think any of them can possibly point out a period in the last 50, 60 years where Republicans actually came through with something that benefited this country as a whole, where people supported it. Because I can't think of anything, you know. And we certainly can point to a lot of things that they've done that helped out the rich people in this country, which is something the majority of this country despises, because they're not paying their taxes, they're not doing their share of being American in this country. They've been doing everything to cripple it, you know, by kicking out unions and moving their businesses abroad. You know, the minute the workers are unhappy about something or they want to raise, they have a fit, you know, and they just don't want to do it. You know, it's like, well, Christ, you know, when you was climbing up the economic ladder, didn't you bitch and complain when you weren't getting paid enough to do your job? Didn't you go around from job to job to job to find one that would pay you more than what you was getting before? Of course you were. So how can you sit here and you know, beat down somebody that's asking for a little more money because, you know, inflation is going through the roof and it's costing them a whole lot more to raise their kids and have their family, you know? It's just, you know, the lack of compassion in that party is astounding, okay? It really is astounding. And despite the things that they say they stand behind, pro-life, you know, and all this stuff, it begs to question why they would stand against things that would help children, you know, that would help families to be able to help their children to do better in life, to get a good education, to not go hungry, or for their parents to have a stable work life, so that way they can keep bringing home the money to keep the family going, you know? How can they enact things like that that are going to directly impact the stability of families across the nation? You know, that doesn't sound like pro-life to me. That sounds anti-life. These people hate life, okay, or at least they hate other people having a life. But they're all for the fetus, right? Because that's a religious issue that gets them votes. Okay, so obviously they're only saying these things to get your vote, but in the back of their mind, they don't care about abortions either. Okay, they don't care about it. And there was a time when Republicans never made a fuss about abortions. It wasn't an issue for them. Okay, that didn't come around till in the 70s when they started bringing that up in every damn election cycle, because they knew when it started, it was getting a lot of attention and a lot of people riled up, and they figure, well, that's what we got to do. Get people riled up and they'll come flocking to us. Okay, that's how they win elections, is by angering people, you know, causing societal uproars. Okay, it's not about trying to make things better. It's about saying things that are so bad in this country where that isn't really a problem, but they make it into one where people are so so pissed off, like critical race theory. Nobody knew a fucking thing about that until the Republicans started bringing that up. Then it was critical race theory till the cows came home. Okay, people were going to school board meetings and, you know, having fits and all this. I mean, that's how powerful, you know, the Republican Party is now, because they're like a Nazi type party where they kind of tell you, okay, this is the problem, go out and do something about it, you know, and there is no problem. They're just naming things off to find out what's going to get these people riled up the most, you know, what's going to stick to the wall. And right now, this thing with the hearings is really got them on the defensive now, because, you know, now they got to find something that's bigger than this hearing in order to stick to the wall to get their base motivated. Okay, and that's what they were doing Friday night, is they're sitting here feeling out the waters, as it were, to see how their viewers are going to respond to certain things they were saying that night, you know, about this hearing. So Trump is out there and everybody's out there trying to undercut what people are going to be seeing for the rest of the week here coming on these hearings. And so they're going to have a hell of a time trying to pivot this topic away from the public. Okay, and they shouldn't be able to, really, because that's really avoiding consequences for what they did wrong, which they know they did wrong. These people behind the scenes knew what was going on that day was wrong. Okay, and so by trying to get people to look away from, there's nothing behind the curtain, to get people to look away, don't see, they're just admitting right there that they're afraid that that's going to take support away from their base, because when people start to watch what's being said, you know, about this, it's going to really embarrass the hell out of a lot of people in the Republican Party, that they were lied to, they were misled, okay, and Trump wasn't the guy they thought he was, you know, and that's the thing Fox News doesn't want people to hear or to reason, is that they were duped by this guy, and many of them are allowing themselves to still be duped, you know, like the Proud Boys, who couldn't stand up against the American patriots in this country, and they're still getting their asses kicked right now. So it goes to show you how weak they were. Okay, but still they should answer for what their part in that January 6th riot was. Okay, these people were open terrorists in our country, trying to derail a peaceful transition of power. So anyway, that's about all I wanted to say for today, and I hope everybody has a great upcoming week. Please keep your ears open for any local COVID-19 news. Some places it's lessening, other places it's increasing. This is going to be a constant fluctuation here for years to come, people. I don't think we're going to see the end of this thing. But just be careful in large groups out there. So subscribe and comment, please. I'd like to hear from people that agree or disagree with things I say. You know, how can someone ever know or learn from anything that they do or say if they don't get feedback from somebody out there, you know? So take care, everybody, and have a good week.